take a stand. Everybody, come take my hand, come take my hand. We'll walk this road together through the storm, whatever weather, cold or warm. Letting you know that you're not alone.
You're listening to America Off the Rails with Double R, right here on the Common Ground Media Network. You're listening to K98 FM's K98 Talk.
Well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be. I am Double R, and this is America Off the Rails. This is going to be the New Year's Eve edition. We will not have a show tomorrow night. For the first time in 16 years, the wife and I actually have schedules that do not conflict, so we will be getting together with some friends. New Year's Day, and Dave and I do plan on doing a day show. Another edition of Finding Common Ground, which is not something that we've been able to do much lately with the schedule changes. Then once all of the holidays are pretty much out of the way, we will be back to 5-day-a-week radio here on K98 Talk, as well as on America Off the Rails, Monday through Friday, typically 7 to about 8:30, hopefully at some point pushing it out to about 9 o'clock. Lately, the start times have been a little rough because, there's always things that are in the way when you do things from a small studio inside your home. Things just sometimes don't go as planned. But anyway, there is something that I want to discuss before I get into the meat of today's show. We do have a lot to go over because it's been a few days since I've done one, and there have been a lot of things going on. But during the holiday, I was approached by someone who shall remain nameless, who basically decided to call me out and tell me that I should be ashamed of the language that I sometimes use on the show. So again, for those of you who tune in on a regular basis, I am going to remind you, I do my best to filter my language when I can. We are not FCC regulated, therefore we do not have a 5-second delay, don't have the ability of putting in a 5-second delay, so therefore there are going to be times when I get frustrated and angry, and you're going to hear it in my word choices. If that offends you, feel free to turn it off. If it doesn't, feel free to turn it up. This is still a free country. We have free speech until the Obama regime decides otherwise, so until that happens, I am free white and over 21, and I will say what I want when I want, anytime I damn well please. And if you don't like it, feel free to turn off the radio. Okay, thanks, bye. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, sorry, that's been bugging me for a few days, so I just had to let it go. So bear with me for a second while I just kind of, anybody ever see, what was it, Bad Boys 2? I'm just trying to have one of those woosah moments, I guess. Just kind of trying to calm down a little bit, because, that's been eating at me since the holidays pretty badly. And I have 0... There we go. Yeah, so apparently my internet connection's not too good this evening, so if I'm cutting out on you, I do apologize. But, so anyway, lots of stuff going on in the news. Another thing that I want to yell about for a few minutes, and if you're not a football fan, I do apologize. I'm really not that much of one either, but see, two things happened last night. Two of my favorite teams played each other. I've been a Cowboys fan since I was 3, because I was born and raised for the most part in the state of Oklahoma. And as you know, we don't have our own football team, and up until recently, we didn't have any major sports teams. So you kind of had your choice of basically Kansas, yuck, or Cowboys. And all my friends growing up were Cowboys fans, and they were a few years older than me. So, me being a 3-year-old little kid hanging around with a bunch of 7-year-olds went, ooh, Cowboys are cool, rock on, and basically been a fan kind of ever since. Well, we moved around a lot in my teenage years. For about a year, we landed in Delaware. Very tiny state. Again, no sports teams. Stepdad was a big fan of the Eagles, so we watched them quite often. So I've kind of become a fan of them as well. So last night was a bit hard for me because my two favorite teams were basically duking it out. So really, no matter who won, I still wasn't completely disappointed. But the one thing that I want to say, and this is not coming from someone who likes Tony Romo very much either, but for all you Romo haters out there, he wasn't there yesterday. And that last play of the game looked exactly like a Romo moment. And for those of you who are Dallas fans, you know what I'm talking about. It's just that 1 second where everything's going good, and the next thing you know, oops, let me throw it to the other team. So I'm going to say the same thing I've been saying for a while now. I think it's time to start looking at the coaches. Because when the same miscues happen over and over and over again, regardless of who's the one helming the team at the time, it's time to start looking outside of the players on the field. Because something's happening somewhere in the play calling that's screwing some stuff up. Just saying. So again, third year in a row, Cowboys 8-8 and out. And it was depressing. At least this year it wasn't the Redskins. My stepdad was also a fan of the Redskins. I never really could get into them though. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, Delaware, small state, DC, and Philly were really close. So basically, those were kind of the home teams of the joint. So, but yeah, didn't mind Philly much, but I was always a closet fat kid even when I was skinny. So I wonder if maybe that had more to do with the cheesesteaks than the football team. Sadly, my closet fat kid has burst forth, and now everyone can see. But there again, it's the reason I do radio and not television. You don't want to see this face, much less the body that it's attached to. Okay, so before we get going too heavily here, I do want to talk about our sponsor this half hour. That is going to be Beachbody. And I do have this not good commercial that I keep promising I'm going to fix. But yeah, it's the holidays. I'm working on about 6 different commercials and not finding time to get any of them done because I'm always doing something. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of a break, and I will be right back.
We were made to be courageous. We were made to lead the way. We could be the generation that finally breaks the chains. We were
Giving the Obama administration the big ones up, right from the middle finger. Common Ground Radio with Double R.
Hey folks, I don't know about you, but I always feel like there just isn't enough time in the day. You know, one of those not enough hours in the day kind of things. But, you know, working full-time, raising a family, trying to start a company, I'm sure some of you can relate. So, what can we do about it, I guess is my question. Short of hijacking Doc Brown and having him show you the secrets to the DeLorean, what if I told you there was a way where we could get you more energy for the hours that you had in your day instead of worrying about finding more time in your day? Anyway, I found the information through my independent Beachbody life coach, Miss Sherry Britt. You can find her information online at www.beachbody.com/SherryBritt1. Basically, I have to tell you, folks, I haven't been doing it for very long, but it's working. It's one of those total commitment kind of things. I'm using a program called Shakeology. Basically, it's a meal replacement. Think Slim Fast, but better. And also, I have one of Sean T's workout videos. We're doing T25 right now. Started that a couple of days ago. Have to admit, I'm old, I'm fat, and it's painful, but I feel better. And it's one of those things where I'm doing it at my own pace. There's also nutrition plans involved in a lot of these packages if you go for the whole thing. So it's what they like to call a challenge pack. I call it a bundle offer. Basically, it gets you the Shakeology video of your choice and a diet and exercise plan all rolled into one. Basically, it's just one of those things where what have you got to lose? You might as well try it. We all complain that there's not enough time in the day. What if there just isn't enough energy for us in the day anymore? You remember when we were kids? A day felt like a week because we were always doing something. Just my thoughts on it, folks. Give it a shot. Like I said, you can find the information at the link I just gave you a minute ago. What have you got to lose?
If you don't believe in God we trust, then strap your bomb to yourself and ride your camel out of here. You're listening to America Off the Rails with Double R, right here on Common Ground Radio.
Alright folks, and we are back again. I am Double R, and this is America Off the Rails. Now, for those of you who've been following along in the news, there are some rather scary things going on. There have been some bombings in Russia that are being linked to terrorist attacks. We'll probably get into those more on another show. Today there are other things that I want to focus on, but there are lots of little things I want to go over as well, kind of like that one. One of the things that I found the most interesting of today was an article that I found from the New York Times. I need to find a more creative name for that newspaper. Don't want to steal Mark Levin's, but it really fits. Because, yeah, these people might as well just change their logo to a big, smiling, grinning, buck-toothed donkey. Yeah, they've basically put out a nice, large, long editorial basically blaming the Benghazi attack on the terrorist video again. The interesting thing in this nice, long, in-depth article, it doesn't not one time, mention who the Secretary of State was during this incident. Gee, I wonder why that could possibly be. Could it have anything to do with the fact that the Secretary of State at that time is currently the front runner for the Democratic nomination for president in 2016. I don't know about you, but if I was Crazy Joey B, I'd be a little hacked off. Because normally, the Veep gets a chance to run after a two-term president. So, Crazy Joey B, you were good enough to dance with? Not good enough to lead the dance. Just saying. How's that make you feel, Uncle Joker? Because if I were you, I'd be a little pissed. Not to mention the fact that if anybody thinks that a whitewashed article out of the New York Times is going to change the opinion of the folks that it matters to, because, yeah, everybody knows that most of the folks that drink or read the New York Times have already drank the Kool-Aid. So, yeah, go ahead. Omit whatever you like. It's not going to change anything. It wasn't about a video. It was never about a video. You can tell us that all you want. It doesn't change anything. It makes you feel better, and it makes you feel like you are now becoming the mouthpiece for who you hope the new president is going to be, much like you've been for the one that's been in the office now for a little over 5 years. Or what? Yeah, we're almost to 6 years now, right? I don't know. I've lost track. It feels like 20. So, forgive me. It just seems like this, especially the second term. It just started and it already feels like this is his 5th term. Because there's just so much going on and nobody's covering any of it. Because we're all too busy focusing on Phil Robertson and what he said or he didn't say. And how he's in love with Jim Crow. And that he wants to... Who gives a crap? He's 67 years old. You don't want to know a 67-year-old man's opinion? Don't ask him. Because at that age, I don't care who you are, they are going to tell you. Rich, poor, white, black, Hispanic, at that age, they don't care anymore. They've done everything they set out to do, or everything they could do that they set out to do, and at that age, they don't care who they piss off anymore, so they're just going to tell you exactly how they feel. If you don't like it, don't ask. But look at all the things that have been going on that nobody's been talking about, because we're all talking about A&E. And how they're prejudiced or not prejudiced, and... I don't know, I'm just tired of the whole thing. There's been so many things going on, nobody's talking about them. It's just crazy. I mean, that's like this one. You know, for all you iPhone fans out there, you might want to read this. This is from... Actually, it's from something I just found. I've never really used them before. But it's called Zero Hedge. And basically, it's an article about how the NSA hacks your iPhone. Following up on the latest stunning revelations released yesterday by German Spiegel, which exposed the spy agency's 50-page catalog of backdoor penetration techniques. I think we could have found a better way to word that. I suddenly have 70s music playing in my head and a disco light. Sorry. Today, during a speech given by Jacob Appelbaum at the 30th Chaos Communication Congress, a new bombshell emerged, specifically the complete and detailed description of how the NSA bugs remotely your iPhone. The way the NSA accomplishes this is using software known as Dropout Jeep, which it describes as follows. Dropout Jeep is a software implant for the Apple iPhone that utilizes modular mission applications to provide specific signet functionality. This functionality includes the ability to remotely pull files from the device, SMS retrieval, contact list retrieval, voicemail, geolocation, hot mic, camera capture, cell phone tower location, etc. Command control and data exfiltration can occur over SMS messaging or GPRS data connection. All communications with the implant will be covert and encrypted. Yeah. So basically, in case you're wondering, you now have a tracking device in your pocket. And I'm sorry, folks, if they're doing it with iPhones, they're probably doing it with all of them. Because, yeah, the other day, the wife took the mother-in-law to our mobile phone store because she needed a new phone. They've decided to do away with a house phone, and they already had one cell phone, but they didn't want to double up on their plan, and we get a discount for adding multiple lines. So we took her to our provider and said, hey, put her on our plan. They're moving everyone to smartphones. And she didn't even really want a smartphone, but the cheapest flip phone, if you were to pay for it, which in this case we didn't want any type of an agreement, was $60. Without an agreement, you could get a low-end smartphone for $29. I wonder why they're moving everybody to smartphones. A feeling it has a lot to do with this article right here. Sadly, I'm so involved in technology, I wouldn't be able to exfiltrate myself from it if I needed to, which at some point I might. But yeah, so with the new release of the latest iPhone, they basically built one of the largest privately held fingerprint databases ever, which the government now has unlimited access to because they can hack your iPhone whenever they want. And everybody wonders why I kept saying over and over again, when the fingerprint scanner for the iPhone came out, the NSA was somewhere partying like it was 1999 because they got fingerprints of a lot of people and had instant access to them. Yay for databases. Just saying. So yeah, that's hit number 1 on the list today. So yeah, iPhone. Yeah, thanks Apple. Good looking out for your consumers. Nice job, buddy. Oh, hang on. Apparently, the NSA can hack Wi-Fi networks from miles away. Next up on the list, so let's have a look. So yeah, while I'm waiting on this particular article to pull up, anybody hear about the latest, or one of the latest rounds of the knockout game? Where this time it was a white guy knocking out a black guy, and suddenly he's charged with federal hate crime. Now granted, there were some aspects of this case that were a little different. I mean, they all post the videos, but this guy was going around showing people the video after he did what he did, and calling the guy names and everything else. So yes, I understand there's a little bit of a difference, but you also can't tell me that some of the same people that have been doing the knockout game when it was black on white violence weren't going around showing their friends how they were knocking out peckerwoods. Which, for anybody who's ever wondered, so I didn't know this till I did research, but apparently that is a derogatory term basically for a redneck thought up by a black guy. Just in case anybody was wondering, because yeah, I didn't know that either. Well, at least not until a few months ago. So anyway, that last piece I wanted to go over has pulled up. The NSA can hack Wi-Fi devices from 8 miles away. The NSA may have the ability to intercept data from around the world, but we now know that it has some impressive and intimidating equipment for snooping on nearby targets. Security guru Jacob Applebaum, that guy again, told those at the Chaos Communications Congress this weekend that the NSA's big box of tools includes Nightstand. Why does that sound like something from a James Bond movie? Oh, wait, probably because it was something that wasn't a James Bond movie and now it's real. A custom device that can compromise Wi-Fi networks for the sake of inserting spy software. The Linux-powered device... See, everybody wonders why I never really cared for Linux. It's just an evil-sounding name, and the fact that the NSA likes to use it, doesn't make me any happier about it. The Linux-powered device can exploit Windows systems from up to 8 miles away. It's unlikely that you'll catch agents war driving in the parking lot. Nightstand may not see significant use today, given that it dates back to 2008, but its existence suggests that the NSA also has newer, more advanced Wi-Fi surveillance gear at its disposal. Oh wait, so they could do it from 8 miles away in 2008. Technology typically outgrows its usefulness now at about a 6-month rate. So we are now 1, 2, 3... So, 10 generations past that? that doesn't make me feel any better. Just saying. This is why I've been terrified for some time, folks. Our government is out of control. And I don't care which side has power anymore, because they all want the same thing. This is not about Democrat or Republican. This is not about left or right. At this point, this is becoming more and more about right and wrong. Plain and simple. Oh wait, hang on. This one made me do a little bit of a happy dance, gotta say. And for those of you who know me, you know that was kind of penguin style, but it still made me do a happy dance. This is from Mail 1. A global warming scientist forced to admit defeat because of too much ice. Stranded Antarctic ship's crew will be rescued by helicopter. Chris Turney, a climate scientist and leader of the expedition, was going to document environmental changes at the pole. In an interview, he said he expected melting ice to play a part in the expedition. The name of the ship I cannot pronounce, so I'm not going to try to say it on the air, still stuck amongst a thick ice sheet 1,500 nautical miles south of Hobart, the Tasmanian capital. Called for help at 5 a.m. Christmas morning after becoming submerged in ice. Australia's backup ship, Aurora Australis, could not break through. They went in search of evidence of the world's melting ice caps, but instead, a team of climate scientists have been forced to abandon their mission because the Arctic ice is thicker than usual at this time of year. The scientists have been stuck aboard the stricken, MV Academic Shakalski. Sorry, whoever that belongs to, I didn't mean to butcher it, but I'm tired of not trying to read it. Christmas Day, with repeated sea rescue attempts being abandoned as ice-breaking ships fail to reach them. Now, that particular effort has been ditched, with experts admitting the ice is just too thick. Instead, the ice crew have built an icy helipad with plans afoot to rescue the 74-strong team by helicopter. Anybody who gave that man money want a refund yet? Sam, you made him rich. You bought it hook, line, and sinker, and you made him rich. Now, before I go on to some of the other stuff that I wanted to talk about, there's something else that happened a couple of weeks ago that I hadn't really had much of a chance to talk about. Despite the disclaimer at the beginning of the show, I am a Christian. I spend quite a bit of time when I can watching a particular network. It's one that I've watched since I was a teenager, and one that I became rather fond of. And now it's become a whole family of networks, and that would be the Trinity Broadcasting Network. Now, for those of you who have watched that network, a few weeks ago. And I gotta say, for me, that was actually kind of a sad time, because there have been times in my life that I'd lost my way and wasn't sure what I was gonna do, and typical human thing, and kind of ran away from God screaming, telling him that I thought he was an idiot, and this, that, and the other. And most of the time it was by turning to that particular channel that I would find something that would start reeling me back in. Well, I saw some disturbing things upon Paul Crouch's passing. Articles claiming that at one point he was a con man and a charlatan and everything else. I don't know if that was true of him before, and I don't care. I'm just going to tell you exactly what I feel about it. There was a certain man who started out as a tax collector who became an apostle. Now, in that time frame, tax collectors were the biggest charlatans, frauds, and cheats you could think of, and they were not nice people. And yet, when he became exposed to the Christ, now granted, he went through a lot to get where he was, and it took being blinded and changing his name and everything else before he finally really started turning everything around. But my point is, those of you that were screaming about how he's a charlatan and a fake and a fraud, you know, you're usually the first ones telling Christians that they shouldn't be judging you. Yet you're usually the one screaming the loudest when it's your turn to judge someone else. I get it. It's human nature. But that's not cool. It's really not. You can't be like, well, you should accept me for this, 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 and this, and then when something bad happens to somebody else, oh, he was a fake and a fraud anyway. Jerk, liar, stealer, thief. You don't know. You don't know what was in that man's heart at the time that he died. You don't know what was in that man's heart at the time that he built that network. And what an even better thing, if you stop and think about it, even if he started it for the wrong reasons, look at what it's done. Maybe he started it for the wrong reasons. Maybe he started it because he saw a way to make money. But look at what it's done. And look what it did to him. Even if he started it for the wrong reasons, I'm pretty sure he ended up in the right place. And I don't know. All I'm saying is shame on you that are always so judgmental that you're the first one to call out someone else and the last to realize that you were forgiven for things that you did that weren't right too. Especially if you call yourself a Christian. How dare you judge someone else because you don't agree with something that they do, when there are plenty of things that have been overlooked for you. How does that verse go? Stop worrying about the speck in your neighbor's eye and worry more about the board in your own. Now granted, I'm paraphrasing the heck out of that one, but that's one I typically try to live by. That's why I go out of my way to not judge anyone, especially if they have different beliefs than I do. That's not my job. I'm called to hold believers to higher standards, but I'm also not called to treat them like dirt. I'm not called to call them out in the middle of a family get-together with family and friends around and start yelling and screaming at them about the language that they use. Yeah, granted, going backwards again there. But sorry, that really hurt my feelings. I didn't ask that particular person to turn on the program. They had every right to turn it off if they became offended. But I have every right to say whatever I want to say, whenever I want to say it, because I live in America. And if you don't like it, and you don't agree with it, that's not my problem. Quit judging me, because I know there are things that we've all done that we don't want anybody else to know. Nobody's perfect. Everyone has fallen short. Everyone was born into sin. I have friends who don't agree with that sentiment. That's their decision. I don't hold them to that standard. I can't. All I can do is love them and pray that if I'm right, which I believe I am, that at some point they can find their way back. And if they don't, I'm still going to do everything that I can. But I will not be one of these people standing here screaming at people for doing things differently than I think they should be done. That's not what Christianity was about. If anything, that's what got Christ crucified in the first place. Because he didn't want to do things the way the modern day religion of his time wanted things done. He was out hanging out with the people that really needed him, which were the people that everybody else thought were the scum of the earth. So, again, thoughts and prayers out to the Crouch family. Sorry, I planned on getting to this a lot sooner, but with all the holidays and everything else and schedule changes, just hadn't had a chance to talk about it. And again, for all of you folks posting everything all over social media talking about what a fraud and a fake he was, shame on you. You don't know the man. You didn't spend any time in his shoes, and you're usually the first one screaming the loudest to tell people that they shouldn't be judging you. So stop using your animus to judge others. And that's all I have to say on that one. Next up on the hit parade, what else do we have going on today? This one's from the Washington Times. Howard Dean. Individual mandate in Obamacare wasn't necessary. Former Democratic National Committee Chairman Howard Dean said Monday that the mandate in President Obama's health care law stipulating that virtually all Americans must buy health insurance or pay a fine wasn't necessary. Mr. Dean said on CNBC's Squawk Box that the number of younger, healthier people enrolling in Obamacare who will theoretically broaden the risk pool of those in the insurance marketplace doesn't really matter that much. This is about the individual mandate, he said. The individual mandate was necessary, and it's probably a big political thing, and that is going to hurt a big political thing? Really? Wait, hang on. Did you really, on national TV, granted with probably 5 people watching, say that it was a big political thing? Well, no crap. Of course it was political. Obama's a fan of single payer. He wants single payer. He wants to crush the insurance industry. He wants to crush the middle class because then he can swoop in and be Obama to the rescue. There's a reason that people like Barbara Wawa and all the other left-leaning pundits keep dropping the word savior every once in a while. That's what they expected this man to be. That's what he expected to be. That's what he's still gonna try to be. He's waiting for all this crap to blow up so he can swoop in and fix it. So yeah, Mr. Dean, thanks for pointing out that this was a big political thing. I'm gonna need my duct tape before this show is over. People don't like to be told what to do by the government, no matter which party they're in. That should have a caveat. If you're above the age of 30, typically you don't mind, or you don't want that to happen. Below the age of 30, I'm going to have to say that most people that age expect it anymore. But the truth is that it wasn't necessary, and the insurance companies like it because it does bring young, healthy people who aren't likely to get sick into the system. He continued, Mr. Dean, a one-time presidential candidate, wasn't that the guy with the scream heard around the world? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And the former governor of Vermont said that for young people under 18 in the state, the individual mandate is really not that necessary. And the actual data does not lead to the conclusion that you're going to have huge cost overruns for the insurance companies. Overall, though, Mr. Dean predicted the law itself will eventually work. If by eventually you mean sometime in the year 3000, at least as it's currently written, yeah, maybe. I think there are going to be, sorry, he didn't say that, I did. I think there are going to be some more bumps, but I do think ultimately this is going to get better, not worse. We're not out of the woods, but I think by March we will be, and a lot more people will have insurance. Hey Dean, put down the crack pipe. You're stinking up the joint. So yeah, another little story that dovetails nicely into that one. Democrats. Actually, I think it may be one specific one, so let me pull it up. Democratic rep. Obamacare enrollment because people think the law was repealed. And this is from the National Review Online. The lower than hoped for enrollment numbers on the federal exchanges are due to Republican efforts to repeal Obamacare, Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton, Democrat D.C., argued on Monday. Norton blamed a negative propaganda campaign by Republicans that confused Americans into thinking that the law was no longer in effect. There are millions of people out there who think it was repealed, so there was no way to break through that very easily, she told MSNBC. Norton also pointed out that the debacle of a website made matters worse because it seemed to confirm that the law must have been repealed or should have been repealed. Norton remained confident that the enrollment numbers will improve as people learn more about the law as well as the nearing deadlines and fines. When that fine is going to kick in, you are going to see people trotting to sign on like you've never seen it before, she said. Again, put down the crack pipe. These people are crazy. Now I'm going to read something. Or wait, maybe it's not what I thought it was. This is from the Lifestyle Journal. The way it opened up, I thought that somebody decided to run with an article that I found on the Inquirer yesterday. So I thought maybe that had burst onto mainstream somehow. But yeah, the wife and I were shopping for the father-in-law yesterday, and in the checkout line there was the big rack of the Inquirer sitting there, and apparently it's touting doom and gloom for the Obama marriage and yada yada yada. Well, this one only had a partial title when I clicked on it to open it. It said The Ruin of Barack Obama, so I thought maybe that's where this was going. Apparently not. But this is an interesting read since I've been going over it for a minute while I was talking. A few big moves stand out in Barack Obama's presidency. The $800 billion stimulus plan passed in 2009, the $5 trillion in debt accumulation, the most of any president in history. I would like to repeat that line because I keep hearing how he's not spending as much as the last guy. The $5 trillion in debt accumulation, the most of any president in history. Just in case you missed it the first time. The passage of Obamacare, the assassination of Osama bin Laden, and huge tax increases. But Porter Stansberry, one of the most widely read financial journalists in America, says these events are nothing compared to the next big surprise that could devastate Obama's legacy. Porter is the founder of a financial research firm in Maryland called Stansberry and Associates Investment Research, and he has agreed to make available a free video presentation that gives you full analysis of this situation. Yeah, I'm starting to think this is an ad for something, so I don't think we're going to go into this too much further. So never mind. Joy's Alive Radio, folks. Click on a link, think it's legitimate. Turns out to be an ad for somebody's crap. Next! See, this is why I don't like all these ads that pop up on everything now. Because you think you're going on a legitimate link that's tied to the same article you just had pulled up, and then it turns into something else entirely. So, just saying. Oh yeah, this one annoyed me, and I did want to talk about this today because this is one of the things that is really starting to tick me off. Because perusing a few other articles, I saw things that, didn't really stand out to me because it doesn't really matter to me because as far as I'm concerned it is free speech. Apparently there's been some government funding going into things like porn. Sorry whether you like it or not, that is kind of a First Amendment thing. But so is this one, and that's why I'm so annoyed, because those of us who try to understand the First Amendment really do everything we can, where even if I don't agree with what you're saying, I think you have a right to say it. May not always agree with your time and your place, but you have a right to say it, just like I do. Nevada County Church ordered to remove "Support Our Troops" sign. Nevada County, and this is from CBS 13. A church is in a clash with Nevada County. Sorry, my mouse keeps moving itself. After being told to take down a sign with an American flag and a message to support the troops. Simple Truth Church put up the sign to cover an old rundown billboard. However, the Support Our Troops sign is becoming quite controversial. If the church doesn't remove the sign, it could be fined. Most drivers CBS 13 spoke with did not have a problem with the sign. "It doesn't bother me at all," said one person. But for others, it's an eyesore. It's for that reason someone complained to the county to have it taken down. It's a little surprising. All we meant to do was beautify the area, the corner, and it's a reminder to me, for everyone that drives by, to pray for the troops. Church member Julia Stokes said. Bill and Julia Stokes say the sign was meant to send a positive message, and the church never knew it would stir up such controversy. Why would you knock something that has an American flag on it? And it says "Support Our Troops"? I have no idea. I really don't, said Bill. The banner put up 3 weeks ago may be an upgrade from the faded realty sign that was there before, but according to Nevada County officials, Simple Truth Church needed to have a permit before making the change, and if they don't remove it, the county may. If we don't do anything, they may come out and cut the sign down, and we would have to pay for them to cut the sign down, which seems to be pretty harsh, said Bill. The church is holding off on taking down the sign as long as it can. For now, church officials say it's bringing more followers to the Sunday service. People just drive by and love it, said Julia. There have been 4 new people come to our church because of that sign. The church will meet with the county sometime next week to determine exactly what will be done with the sign. In the meantime, members hope they can keep it up. The previous realty sign stood for nearly 20 years. Without any permit issues. Meanwhile, Simple Truth Church is in the process of finding a permanent home to worship. Okay, so things that jump out. One, the billboard had a realty sign for nearly 20 years, but it was old and dilapidated. So something tells me that whoever paid for the permit originally to have that sign put up probably still wasn't paying for the permit. Something else that jumps out to me is if you, as the owner of the church, decided to beautify the billboard, wouldn't it have made sense to look in to see if there was some sort of a permitting requirement? Third thing that jumps out to me is, since it's already been done and no one was using it, can you not simply give them the permit? Because something tells me less people have complained and more people like it. Just my thoughts on that one, but hey, just call me the common sense guy. Which, sadly, while it's in the name, it's not very common after all. Just saying. So many things on the list today, folks. So I haven't done a show in so long. This is from NBC News Investigations. Workers at auto dealership come face to face with Obamacare trade-offs. The 41 employees of Extreme Dodge in Jackson, Michigan are very familiar with trade-ins, but this year they're learning about trade-offs as they come face to face with the new realities of healthcare. A few workers say they are getting a great deal, but most have a severe case of sticker shock. I feel like I've been taken to the cleaners, said Neil Campbell, a salesman. I'm gonna be nice. I don't know you, Neil. And I know that not all used car salesmen are sharks. So I'm just gonna bite my tongue now. The news was presented at the company's annual benefits meeting earlier this month, when employees were told that the health insurance plan that the auto dealership had provided its workers was canceled because it doesn't comply with the Affordable Care Act, better known as Obozo Care, or the Abominable Care Act, or the What the Hell Were We Thinking Act, or Oh My God, What Are We Gonna Do Now Act. Sorry, I could keep going, but kind of getting bored with it. Rather than officially sponsor a new policy, the company voted one of the 100 best car dealerships to work for in the country last year will instead provide its employees with $2,400 apiece to buy their own insurance or to pocket and pay the new federal penalty if they elect to go without it. That is a bit more than the company says it spent on health insurance this year. Dealership owner Wesley Lutz said his decision to go in a new direction was driven by the fact that the health insurance is incredibly expensive and getting more so. He says he needs to be able to control his future costs. As a business owner, we have to be viable first, and then provide services. Yeah, sorry, you're a business owner. The idiot in the White House probably never even ran a lemonade stand. So I'm sorry you got a leg up on him there, because he doesn't understand viability. All he understands is, if you build it, I will take it, because you didn't build it. Just saying. I mean, come on. He said that how many times during his campaign? And nobody that was... None of his Obama zombies were paying attention. How many times did he say, if you own a business, you didn't build that? Really? I'm now on business number 2 and helping with several others and put in several dozen hours. I would say several dozen hours a day, but there's only 2 dozen hours in the day. But a good portion of those are spent either working at the job that keeps me afloat while I build all this other stuff, or doing all this other stuff. So, Mr. Obama, if you think you can do a better job running my business, why don't you start your own and mind your own business? So anyway, he needs to be able to control his future costs. As a business owner, we have to be viable first and then provide services. He said Lutz is not required to provide health insurance to workers, but has done so for 35 years. Let's read that a little slower. As a business owner, we have to be viable first and then provide services. He said Lutz is not required to provide health insurance to workers, but has done so for 35 years. 35 years. 35 years. This man didn't have to, but tried to be one of the good guys. Tried to make sure that his people made decent money, could take care of their families, had health insurance if they needed it, and the government steps in and screws it all up. By not sponsoring a company plan, Lutz also enables workers to shop around and see if they can do better buying insurance through the health insurance exchanges. These were established by the new law, where some will qualify for subsidies or through buying a new group plan recommended by the company. A handful of the extreme Dodge workers came out winners, mostly low-wage earners who qualify for subsidies and therefore pay very little for insurance. The biggest winner is Brandon Chisholm, a detailer with 2 daughters, who will get health insurance for the first time and will have to pay virtually nothing for it because he qualifies for a big government subsidy. That means he can bank the $200 a month that the company is giving the workers to replace the health insurance it previously provided. Asked if he was excited at the prospect of getting nearly free coverage on top of the cash stipend, he replied, "Oh yeah, anything that can help me and my family out, that's what I'm going to do." 26 of the dealership's workers had been covered this year under the old company plan. 21 have now decided to go with the new group plan recommended by the company for next year, though they realize that they face sharply higher out-of-pocket costs next year. Their deductibles will go from $1,125 this year to $3,000 next year. Wait, wasn't the insurance supposed to get cheaper? Gonna save the average family $2,500 a month. Oh, and let's not forget, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. Oh, and if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Those particular 2 statements right there voted the biggest Pinocchio moments of 2013. Way to go, President Big Nose. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I call him Big Ears. Maybe we should change that. Yeah, for those of you who've not followed my Facebook pages, I'm actually part of several. One, the Common Ground political page, started by me and my buddy Dave. Actually, it started as a completely different page, then we changed the name when we got more serious. And then you can find that one at www.facebook.com, Common Ground political page. It's not been quite as active lately because of the holidays, but we are starting to get back into the swing of things. We also have the page that I basically run by myself for the most part, which is a nod to this show, www.facebook.com/America is coming off the rails. Still try to pretend I have a little bit more hope on the Facebook page than I typically try to portray on the radio show. Sorry folks, I'm pretty sure we're already pretty much there. I just don't want to face it yet. Which is why the show is called America is Off the Rails, or America Off the Rails, and the page is called America is Coming Off the Rails, because, yeah, just saying. Anyway. So, yeah, for those of you doing the math, that's nearly a 200% increase. It's actually right about 180%. How is this helping the average American that's working 40 to 50 hours a week? Said Terry Hardcastle, a salesperson. How are we supposed to live? Kathy Smith, who hoped she'd qualify for a subsidy and made just a little bit too much money, had tears in her eyes. "You don't make that much money to begin with," she said, "and the prescriptions are going to kill me." Insurance broker Michael Harb said small businesses, part of what's known in the industry as the small group market, are used to seeing healthcare insurance premiums climb about 10% a year, but it's never before been this dramatic. For Extreme Dodge to have kept deductibles and out-of-pocket costs at last year's levels, he said would have cost the dealership almost 50% more than last year. Harp said what is happening at this dealership is representative of other small businesses he deals with. Businesses with 50 or fewer employees currently provide health insurance to about 17 million U.S. workers, according to the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. He said the biggest surprise to him is how the law impacts small business clients. And it's how many people are losers versus winners. There are some people who do come out ahead, but I would say the overwhelming majority, they are paying much higher rates than they have, and they have lower benefits. Some small businesses have been able to extend their current policies and delay the deadline for complying with the new law until sometime next year. The Obama administration disputes the notion that the ACA puts small businesses at a disadvantage or forces them to shed health insurance. It cites a program created by the Law Small Business Health Options program, or SHOP, that enables businesses with fewer than 50 full-time employee equivalent employees to shop for group health plans, and notes that many small businesses qualify for tax credits to help pay for employee premiums. Beyond the higher out-of-pocket costs, some workers at the dealership face higher premiums. Premiums vary because of age and family size. Some end up paying slightly less or about the same for premiums, but older workers with family pay significantly more. Among the hardest hit is Campbell, a salesman with a wife and 3 young children, all of whom are active in athletics. The premium payment currently deducted weekly from his paycheck will increase $77 to a total $221 per week. 221 times 4.1. Holy crap. So hang on, let's do this another way. Let's not even look at yearly or monthly. Let's jump straight to yearly. So, under the new rates, 221 times 52, $11,492 for the year for insurance for a family of, what was it? Wife, 3 young children, 5 people, family of 5, $11,000. So you divide that by 5. You're paying $2,298.40 per year per person on the insurance plan. Now remember, this is a $77 increase. So let's look at something else real quick. So you take the 221 minus the 77 times 52, $7,488. $11,492 subtracting 7,488. Not a big jump. Roughly $414. Roughly, maybe 514. Doing the math in my head because I didn't have another calculator pulled up. That's food money. That's clothes money. That's shoe money. That's a crap ton of money. That's $4,000. $4,000. If we used Obama's original logic, the new insurance cost should have been $4,988. Does anybody remember when he told everybody that by the time this was all implemented, everybody's insurance costs were going to go down by about $2,500 annually? They're not. They're going up by nearly 60%, Actually, by the time you take away the $2,500 deficit and you add on the nearly typically average between $3,000 and $4,000, you're talking about premiums going up by anywhere from 300 to 400% if you take Obama at his face value, which nobody can do anymore. But I mean, at this point, I'm done arguing. I'm done really talking about this man, other than pointing out to all you idiots who made fun of me when he got elected again about what an idiot I was. Is that Obama sticker making you feel stupid yet? Have you gone to have it sandblasted off your car yet? If not, you probably should. So I don't know about you, but I'd be a little ashamed to have one of those on my car right now. You fell for that man's crap hook, line, and sinker. And now you're about to try to shove Hillary down our throats sideways. Oh, wow. I really wish I hadn't just gone there. That was a visual I didn't need. Now, this is for all you atheist folks out there, and again, not judging you. You seem to like to think that all of our answers will one day be provided by science. I like to think that that's a little crazy. This is from Reuters, found on Yahoo News. For people at high risk of depression because of a family history, spirituality may offer some protection for the brain, a new study hints. Parts of the brain's outer layer, the cortex, were thicker in high-risk study participants who said religion or spirituality was important to them versus those who cared less about religion. Our beliefs and our moods are reflected in our brain, and with new imaging techniques we can begin to see this. Myrna Weissman told Reuters Health, "The brain is an extraordinary organ. It not only controls, but it is controlled by our moods." Weissman, who works on the new study, is a professor of psychiatry and an epidemiologist. Professor of psychiatry and epidemiology at Columbia University, and it doesn't seem like those two things would go well together, but whatever. And at Columbia University, and chief of the clinical genetic epidemiology department at New York State Psychiatric Institute. While the new study suggests a link between brain thickness and religiosity? Is that even a word? Or spirituality, it cannot say that thicker brain regions cause people to be religious or spiritual, Weissman and her colleagues note in JAMA Psychiatry. It might hint, however, that made-up words confuse me. Religiosity can enhance the brain's resilience against depression in a very physical way, they write. Previously, the researchers had found that people who said they were religious or spiritual were at lower risk of depression. They also found that people at higher risk for depression had thinning cortices compared to those with lower depression risks. The cerebral cortex is the brain's outermost layer made of gray matter that forms the organ's characteristic folds. Certain areas of the cortex are important hubs for neural activity and for processes such as sensory perception, language, and emotion. For the new study, the researchers twice asked 103 adults between the ages of 18 and 54 how important religion or spirituality was to them and how often they attended religious services over a 5-year period. In addition to being asked about spirituality, the participants' brains were imaged once to see how thick their cortices were. All the participants were the children or grandchildren of people who participated in an earlier study about depression. Some had a family history of depression, so they were considered to be at high risk for the disorder. Others with no history served as a comparison group. Overall, the researchers found that the importance of religion or spirituality to an individual, but not church attendance, was tied to having a thicker cortex. The link was strongest amongst those at high risk of depression. What we're doing now is looking at the stability of it, Weissman said. Her team is taking more images of the participants' brains to see whether the size of the cortex changes with their religiosity or spirituality. This is a way of replicating and validating the findings, she said. That work is in process now. Dr. Dan Blazer, the J.P. Gibbons Professor of Psychiatry at Duke University Medical Center in Durham, North Carolina, said the study is very interesting, but it is still exploratory. I think this tells us it's an area to look at, Blazer said, who was not involved in the new study. It's an area of interest, but we have to be careful, he said. For example, there could be other areas of the brain linked to religion and spirituality. Also, spirituality may be a marker of something else, such as socioeconomic status. Blazer added that it's an exciting time because researchers are actively looking at links between the brain, religion, and a risk of depression. We've seen this field move from a time when there were virtually no studies done at all, he said. Weissman said the mind and body are intimately connected. What this means therapeutically is hard to say, she added. So yeah, interesting thought there. And notice it doesn't say anything about what type of religion. Again, I leave that to you to make your own decisions. I simply call them as I see them. And again, for me, Christianity, again, as I've told friends, answers all the small bits for all the important bits for me, and I let my own juxtapositions fill in the rest. Okay, so moving on. So yeah, one of the other things that I found today on the drive home was the FAA has named the drone testing sites. For those of you not following along, there was a good chance Oklahoma was going to be one of those sites. I have to say I'm a little disappointed that we didn't make the list, but I can kind of understand why. I planned on using them for target practice. Just saying. So, and since I've heard most of the other radio hosts that do this on terrestrial radio in the area making the same claims, I'm pretty sure that they probably decided, just in case we weren't kidding, it's probably not a good idea to have drones flying around in Oklahoma, because we'll probably treat them like skeet and knock them out of the sky. Just saying. Now see, this is another thing that I found today. And I gotta say, I don't know how old Beyonce is, so I don't know, maybe she wasn't around during the Challenger incident. But apparently, she has a new song out called EXO. And it starts out with some of the ground control audio clippings going around the Challenger incident. I was a kid when that happened. I was in 6th grade, in Seattle, or in the Seattle-Tacoma area, and it was 1986. We were at the Science Museum that day on a field trip. I was happily munching on space ice cream as we boarded the bus. Everyone got situated. We sat down, and before the bus driver started the bus, she said, "Kids, I have a sad announcement. I need to tell you that the Space Shuttle Challenger has exploded, and that all on board were killed." Of course, we're 11, 12 years old. We think she's kidding. Some kids even start making jokes. And suddenly her face loses color. She stands up, turns to us, and says, "I'm not kidding, and this is not funny. The Space Shuttle Challenger has exploded." I was shaken by that for days. As a kid whose fondest memories were sitting on my dad's lap watching things like Star Trek and dreaming of the day that we could be in space doing those kind of things, even if I didn't live to see them, that one day maybe my grandkids or my great-grandkids or even my great-great-grandkids could be out there doing the things that I was dreaming about at those moments, watching those old cheesy 60s reruns in the 70s and 80s. That was the first time in my young life that anything had really impacted our space program. And I didn't know how to cope with it. I never told my parents. I never talked to anybody about it. But I came home and I turned on the radio and I cried myself to sleep. I don't even remember if I ate dinner that night. That's how shaken up I was by that. Which is why I have to say, Beyonce, I don't know you. I don't know what was in your heart when you decided to put those little clips in your song. To be fair, I've never bought anything that you've put out. To be fair, I never will. I'm just telling you that now. I don't know what your intent was. I don't care what your intent was. It was cold, and it was cruel. This was the first time in history that a civilian was allowed to be on the space shuttle. And it ended tragically. And the fact that you decided, for whatever reason, that you could exploit that and put it in your song makes me sick. And again, you haven't lost me as a consumer, because I don't like your music, never really bothered to listen to much of your music. Just letting you know up front that if I ever at some point had gotten an inkling to maybe buy something for one of my kids, I have teenage kids. They're still hip and cool, I'm not. But yeah, you're no. iTunes, no. Hard copy, no. It's just not gonna happen. They want to buy it with their money, I'm not gonna stop them, because again, I don't try to judge people, and they're not gonna have the same reaction to this that I do. They don't even understand it. So again, depending on how old you are, you may not even understand it. Just gotta tell you, not cool. So, again, let's read through this real quick. Challenger exploded 73 seconds after liftoff from the Kennedy Space Center on January 28, 1986, killing all 7 crew members. The song XO, about a troubled relationship, features the voice of now retired NASA Public Affairs Officer Steve Nesbitt, commenting as the shuttle was seen breaking apart on live television, U.S. ABC TV reports. Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction. Nesbitt is heard saying. The brief audio clip runs for 6 seconds. EXO was written and produced by Ryan Tedder and Therese Nash, who goes by the stage name The Dream. Beyonce issued a statement, "My heart goes out to the families of those lost in the Challenger disaster. The song EXO was recorded with the sincerest intention to help heal those who have lost loved ones and to remind us that unexpected things happen, so love and appreciation every minute that you have with those who mean the most to you is important." The songwriters included the audio in tribute to the unselfish work of the Challenger crew with hope they will never be forgotten. Former and current astronauts, NASA employees, and Challenger family members see it differently. June Scobie Rogers, the widow of Challenger Space Shuttle Commander Dick Scobie and founder of the Challenger Center for Space Science Education, expressed her disappointment in the singer's decision. Keith Cowing, a former NASA employee who now runs NASAWatch.com, a website, said the choice of historic and solemn audio is inappropriate in the extreme. The choice is little different than taking Walter Cronkite's words to viewers announcing the death of President Kennedy or 911 calls from the World Trade Center attack and using them for shock value in a pop tune. Cowing would like to see the clip removed and an apology issued to the families of the Challenger crew. Retired NASA astronaut Clayton Anderson told ABC News, "For the words to be used in the video is simply insensitive at the very least." And I, for one, completely agree. We have come to a time where the only thing that sells is shock value. If it bleeds, it leads has been the mantra of today's news world for decades. Each generation pushes the envelope that much further than the last. I was discussing this with some folks at the day job a while ago because in the training class that I'm in now, there are several different age ranges. And we were talking about the differences between folks like Madonna, Lady Gaga, and Miley Cyrus. And I basically said, whether anybody wants to admit it or not, Miley Cyrus is basically taking the place of folks like Madonna and the stuff that she did in the 80s. Because at the time, she pushed the envelope as far as society was willing to let her push it. That's what each generation does. That's why there have to be boundaries and limits. Because if we allow them to do nothing but push, with no pushback, they don't ever learn that certain lines shouldn't be crossed. Sorry, Beyonce, this was one of those lines. I don't care what your intent was. And I'm curious, probably not anything that can be done, because we follow the same rules here, since it was only a 6-second clip. Nobody can probably say anything. And again, I have to say, it's free speech. So while I'm not happy about it, and I don't think you should have done it, and I won't support you personally, I can't condemn anyone who does. Just saying, if it were me, I think I would have stopped and thought about how tasteless that was probably going to come across. Just saying. I've been saying that a lot tonight, folks. Sorry about that. I don't know. It's just been one of those days. Okay, well, we are at about the 80-minute mark. I think I'm going to go ahead and call this one a little bit short, only because I got a little bit of a late start, and it's coming up, getting kind of close to 9. There are some things I'd like to do before I have to turn in, mainly start trying to do some more research for Thursday, and also go hang out with the wife for a few. So thanks to everybody who's tuned in. Again, if you have, if you'd like to see hear any of the other archive shows, you can find them in a few places. The majority of our archives are currently being stored on Spreaker. You can find us under K98Talk.com. You can also find featured shows on K98Talk.com, where you can find the most recent shows for most of the ones that we've put together. You can also find a stream that is up and running. It does, as of right now, have some of the older episodes. I still haven't had time to get anybody with the team to go in there and update them to some of the newer feeds. And at some point, what we're working on is getting that tied in to where basically anytime we broadcast, that particular stream becomes a live feed and then goes back to stuff from other folks that also want to become a part of the station. So there are lots of things in the works. Again, don't know about any of the other hosts, but I will be taking tomorrow off. Happy New Year. Gonna be hanging out with the wife and some family for the first time in a long time. We have the ability to do that. Again, do plan on probably doing a holiday show with Dave on the 1st, probably sometime after around 10 or so. Gonna get with him here in a little bit, shoot him a message about what time he wants to start, because I don't plan on being up too early on the 1st. It's a holiday, and for the first time in a long time, I get to take the holiday. Kind of liking this day job. Hopefully at some point I'll be doing this enough where I won't need the day job at all, but it is nice to have an 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. Took me a long time to get here, so even if I start making good money at this, I may not let it go. Who knows? I don't know. Anyway, folks, we are out of here. We will be back hopefully Wednesday, probably around 10 o'clock in the morning for Finding Common Ground. Probably will not do a nighttime show that day, but we'll be back Thursday and back with you again on Friday. I'm going to start trying to get back into the 5-day-a-week groove. So thanks to everybody who tunes in all the time. And if you have anything you'd like to say, you can hit me up a few ways. Hopefully by Monday we'll have the caller stuff worked out, so we'll start releasing the number at the beginning of the show for anybody who might want to call in. Not saying that the lines will be immediately open, but at some point during the show I will give out a number and let you know that we're taking callers, so if you want to call in, you can. You can also reach me at r@k98talk.com. You can also reach me at Twitter at double_r, or at double_r_OKC. That's my Twitter handle. So questions, comments, concerns, show topics, guest information, hit me up. Help us make this thing grow, folks. We may be little, but we don't want to stay that way forever. Just saying. We'll be back Thursday on Off the Rails, and I will be back Wednesday with Dave. Good night. God bless. Happy New Year. Let's make 2014 rock. What do you say?
I don't want no one to cry, but tell them if I don't survive, I was born free. I was born free. I was born.
You are now tuned into the Bush Leagues of Talk Radio, right here on the all-new K98 Talk.